This is your captain speaking. Make sure your seat is in an upright and locked position because it's going to be a bumpy ride. Be more than human. Hello and welcome back to the channel, all my Will Wight fanatics out there. My name is Joseph Carroll. I write under the pen name J.R. Carroll. And today we're here to talk about the highly anticipated debut novel in a new series by Will Wight, which is The Captain, The Last Horizon. Now, before we jump into that, if you want all of Will Wight reviews and everything, like same day, next day, make sure you're subscribed here. Leave a comment and like the video. Helps us get the message of Will Wight out to more people, the more likes, comments, and subscriptions we got. So we'll kind of jump in here. And one thing I will say is, I'm going to give just a quick overview of the book with trying to do minimalist amount of no spoilers. So if you're just kind of wondering how I felt about the book and what the vibe of the book is, you'll be okay. And then I'll let you know when we kind of go into really talking about the story. And so if you just don't want to know anything, you'll probably jump out there. And then I'll kind of give another tier when I want to kind of go deeper into it. But let's get ready to jump in. Now, this book is very if someone gave you the book or let you listen to it and they didn't tell you that it was by Will Wight, you would know. It's got Will Wight's author voice and his style all over it. The sci-fi isn't crazy detailed, crazy hard sci-fi. So you're not getting bogged down in super technical terms or anything like that.
The 1.21 gigawatts of electricity.
1.21 gigawatts! 1.21!
The fantasy aspect of it is very clear. Again, not a super hard magic system. So you're not going to be bogged down with it either, where you're just okay, well, the magic works here, doesn't work here. What do you have to use? You have to use this to do that. It's not that complicated. And the meshing of a sci-fi with a traditional kind of wizard, it works really well. You're not getting thrown out, or your suspension. It's not harder to build your suspension of disbelief with this book. Will Wight knows what he's doing. He's going to kind of take you on a ride. Very fast paced. Never, you're not feeling like you're ever getting bogged down in the story or slogging through any part of it. It's super snappy, as they say. For all you non-spoiler people, if you like Cradle, you like Will Wight's style, you like Travis Baldry's narration, if you're into the audiobook, you're gonna like this book. You're safe. You're safe to go ahead and get out there, buy it, buy the book, buy the audiobook. You're good to go. You're safe. So go ahead and jump in feet first, and you'll be good. All right, so now we're going to kind of talk about some actual story aspects. It's still pretty much non-spoiler, but if you don't want to know anything, bounce now, come back later.
Get out! Get out! Get the hell out of here!
And watch the rest. So we start off with our lead. His name is Varric, and it's apparent his dad is either the richest man in the galaxy or the universe, or he has the biggest company. I know for sure he has that. So Varric is trying to do this magical. He's making this magical circle because he's gonna do kind of an incantation, so to speak. And he talks about all these materials he has. This diamond powder, It's like ridiculously expensive. I mean, we're looking at like he throws a number out there like to do this thing costs like 100 billion credits or $100 billion. And yeah, so what he's trying to accomplish here is each magician can only do one specialty. Now you can finagle with the type of power you have. Like if you can make a shield, like let's say you can make a shield. Well, if you can make a shield, then that means you could strengthen in theory you could kind of use that to strengthen a house or whatever. So you only have one specialty, but you can kind of tweak and play with that. He's trying to have all 7 magics, right? And he says in this book that like magic always works. There's not a thing about, oh well, it's not gonna work or it didn't work. Magic's gonna work, but there can be consequences. So you won't know that it didn't work when you cast a spell because something's gonna happen. He's like, but it may not be what you want. So when, of course, they do this, they run the test, successful. But the weird thing about the side effects, is that the way he got these powers was from 6 different people who have died. And he takes like all their knowledge and all their life into him. So that kind of jumps with a weird thing that happens throughout the book where he's talking and he'll run into somebody and he'll like, oh crap, and you'll jump into the mind and the memories of one of those 6 people that died, and he's like, oh, I used to work with this person, or I used to know this person. And so Will plays with that throughout the whole book, and you'll just be sitting there and he'll be talking and then he'll just kind of float into talking kind of as the other person, or he'd be telling a story and then all of a sudden that story floats into being one of the other people's lives. Now a lesser writer could make that really bad. That could go horribly wrong. But Will kind of pulls this off. He just kind of smooth with this butter, just kind of rolls right into that, and you're just like, oh yeah, we're talking about one of the other lives now. Okay, all right, yeah, it's not like taking you out. Like, really, is that how very smooth with it. And so he does a year time jump, and then we find out who the bad guy is, or the bad guys, or whatever you want to call them. They're called the Iron Legion, and it's kind of like this zombie hive mind that's trying to like take over. And they'll take over anything. Like when you first, and this is one of the little jarring things is like when he comes right out of that time, he's like, oh, it's been a year. I'm inside of a ship fighting these bugs, these weird like alien like bug things. And you're like, whoa, okay, you just kind of threw us right in there, didn't you, Will? And then right after that, you get thrown right into the search for the book's namesake, The Last Horizon. And this could be another section where if you want to bounce, this isn't a big spoiler because you find this out like not too far. I mean, maybe not even in the middle of the book. But if you want to bounce now and not know what The Last Horizon is, feel free to kind of jump out of here and you can come back. But The Last Horizon is a mythological ship that some people didn't even think existed. But Varric evidently on the trail of it and finds it rather quickly, and then kind of has to prove himself because there's a sophisticated AI, very human-like AI, in this ship, and so he eventually kind of wins it over and is like, hey, could we stop the Iron Legion and the Iron King, who Iron King is the head of the Iron Legion. He can connect with over, I think he says, 1 trillion life forms. that they have taken over, from bugs to, they take over anything that has any kind of sentience, intelligence. And he's like, well, can we do that? And the ship says, yeah, we could, but I need more crew members. And in Cradle fashion, Will Wight fashion, he's like, well, how will we pick these crew members? And he's like, in battle. You're like, of course we're gonna battle, right? So they have Varric. Because he's got all these powers now. He's like, and they never say he's like he's not a juggernaut of energy. He just knows all the magic now, and he can kind of pick and choose what he wants to use. Find your weakness. He can, he always has access to, a different magic that would be your weakness. So he's beating all these people, and a lot of them he's beating quite easy. And then when he kind of runs into people who can kind of give him a little bit of trouble, the AI and him kind of pick. It's mostly the AI are really picking the people and getting them to come on the ship. And it's a cool concept with the ship. The way the ship works is like it needs an engineer, it needs a pilot, it needs a captain, it needs a commander, it needs a security, security or whatnot, and weaponry. And so they want to find different individuals who are suited to that, and she can use their magical gifts and their strength can help the ship become stronger itself. So it has some magic kind of flowing through it too. And so that's really cool. The fight scenes and the battles and the dialogue about who should go where. And then what happens is when you become a crew member, you get to make a wish of like, oh, what do I want to do with the ship? And each of them get to pick, and it's a really cool dynamic. And a lot of things in the a big part of this book is Varric and his dad not getting along. Like after like that year jump after that, he really hasn't talked to his dad, doesn't want to. He wants to do something greater and defend the galaxy and stuff, while his dad is like, oh, you need to, I paid for you, I made you, you need to come help me and do what you're supposed to do. But I won't go into any serious spoilers. I will just kind of do some pros and cons here. Pros, very well written, structure is great, fast pace, you never feel bogged down, you never feel like he's throwing too much information at you, you're never tired during the book. I mean, it just goes. So from there, this is a positive and a negative, okay? If you like Travis Baldree, because he's great, he is. You like Will Wight's writing, because it's great, and he is great. Put those together, it's all, narration's awesome. You're not bogged down by the prose. They're good in conveying the story through. They're not too purpley. They're not too juvenile. But that also feeds into one of my negatives. And it's a weird negative. And let me know what you think once if you're already in the book, hit me in the comments and let me know if I'm the only one. But, so Will Wight does not change his writing style for this book. It's written just like a Cradle book. And Travis Baldree doesn't really change his narration at all. So he narrates it the way he would narrate a Cradle book. So you put those together, and it sounds just like Cradle. The main character, Varric, his voice, maybe I'm wrong, but I think his voice is almost dead ringer for Lyndon's voice. Then there's another main character who acts very similar, and the voice is exactly the same as Ethan. So if you're coming over from Cradle, you're gonna be sitting in here and you're gonna be like, man, is it's like listening to a Cradle book. And if you're going off and you're doing something, you're like, oh, and you're not super paying attention, and you do your thing, and you turn, like, you might be like, am I listening to Cradle? Oh no, this is the captain. Um, but if you've never listened to a Cradle book, you listen to this and you're like, man, this is great. I mean, the voice acting's on point. It's perfect. So that maybe that's just a weird thing that maybe us Cradle people can kind of talk about. I'd like to find that interesting. And then the other thing that would be kind of a con, but this is just the first book, so I'm giving it a pass, is I am not super connected to any of these characters yet. None of these characters have like gripped me from the first, from right off the bat, from this first book. There's characters that I like for sure, that I think are funny, that I think are cool, that I think can get deeper, and the concepts are really cool. But I am not like hooked on any of these characters. If he were to like start the next book off and kill any of these characters, it wouldn't matter. Not at this point. Now, a lot can change. Like I said, this is only the first book, so I'm not like, oh, you gotta, and especially knowing how fast Will Wight writes and how Cradle turned out, I'm definitely giving him the benefit of the doubt on that aspect. So yeah, I mean, go out if you made it this far. Maybe you've already read it. If not, definitely read it. If you like Will Wight, you're gonna like this. And if you like kind of not so dark sci-fi, you'll like this. This is not a super dark thing. I mean, there's some, dark things that happen a little bit, but it's very similar. I actually would say it's like Cradle had a few moments that were pretty dark, but I don't think you ever get anything close to that here. So appreciate you all for watching. Make sure you like, comment, let me know, have you read this book? Do you, how is it compared to Cradle to you? Do you think he starts off stronger in this book than he did in Unsold? Let me know. And remember, be more than human.